unique opportunity to transition towards more environmentally conscious, economically sustainable, and socially inclusive models. At the heart of these transformative shifts is innovation, the essential force that propels us forward. It enables us to create new methodologies and technologies that address the pressing challenges of our time. By approaching the green and digital transitions thoughtfully and strategically, we can leverage innovation and significantly contribute towards achieving the SDGs. However, we also face considerable challenges. Many governments recognize the gap between the intricate challenges they face and the traditional approaches that are often employed in planning. As we navigate this complex landscape, it is vital to adopt a whole-of-society approach, one that draws on the strengths of governments, the expertise of the private sector, and the knowledge of civil society. Today's session will spotlight the potential of innovation to advance social development, particularly in areas such as inclusive economic growth, adaptive social protection, and digital inclusion alike. We will hear from a diverse lineup of speakers who will share compelling success stories, effective strategies, and lessons learned from their innovative initiatives. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Legina Henry, CEO and founder of Rum and Sargassum, Inc. Dr. Henry is a graduate of MIT and a skilled mechanical engineer. Since 2021, she has served as the CEO of Rum and Sargassum, Inc., leading the charge in commercializing a groundbreaking renewable transportation solution in Barbados. In addition to her leadership role, Dr. Henry is also a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, where she specializes in renewable energy within the Department of Computer Science, Mathematics, and Physics. Her research focuses on sustainable energy solutions for the Caribbean, including biofuels from sargassum seaweed, ocean thermal energy conversion, and wave energy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Legina Henry to the stage.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good? Yeah, I was just, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so where do I point? Point it that way? Okay, great. Okay. Can you go to the first slide? Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm thankful to be here at the Innovation Showcase. So I'm Dr. Henry from UE Cave Hill. Thanks for the introduction, Jordana. We are Rum and Sargassum, Inc. is a biofuel spin-off from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. We use rum distillery wastewater and sargassum seaweed to produce biogas. So I'll just talk about the solution. We started in 2019 getting results from the lab looking at sargassum as a biofuels feedstock. So let me just, and I think from your end, you could probably just advance the slide for me. Thank you. Yeah, next slide, thank you. All right, so we convert sargassum, which is a marine waste. I don't know how many of you are aware of sargassum seaweed, but pretty much it is a brown algae that arrives on the beach on a bad day in Barbados. 1,600 dump trucks of sargassum are deposited on the beach. Oh, like this? Oh, wow. Okay, so on a bad day in Barbados, you get 1,600 dump trucks of sargassum deposited on the beach. And that is more than enough energy to support the entire energy need of this country for a month. And so it is a crisis because you see hotel room occupancy goes down in the months where sargassum is high, and our national economy in Barbados depends on hotel occupancy being as high as possible, as many days of the year as possible. And so that becomes an economic crisis for Barbados. We also repurpose rum distillery wastewater, which this country produces 1 million liters of rum distillery wastewater every day. And so getting rid of that waste product is a challenge that we've had to face as a country. So we convert them into a sustainable biogas. This picture is from September 17th. Sorry. Can you? Okay, that picture is from September 17th. We had test drive 0, where we successfully drove an electric car on the biogas from sargassum seaweed. How did we do that? We powered a generator with the biogas and charged the electric car. So this car was running on sargassum seaweed. Behind the car, you're seeing a petroleum gasoline Suzuki Jimny, which we fit with a natural gas kit. So it could drive also on this biogas from sargassum and rum wastewater. Right now, we're around $600,000 US into this solution, which we're about to try to scale commercially. Next slide. Next slide, thank you. So sargassum, this picture is actually from July this year at Bridgetown. And that's a fisheries port in Bridgetown, Barbados. So just showing you the extent and the scale of this arriving sargassum. I mean, if you go there now, it's paradise blue out there. But on a bad day, this is what our water looks like. Caribbean coastlines face massive climate-driven sargassum landings, disrupting tourism and coastal livelihoods. Wastewater pollution, rum distillery wastewater, again, we need some kind of circular solution that minimizes the waste and boosts energy independence for small islands like Barbados and wider Caribbean region, where rum distillery wastewater is a problem, as well as sargassum arriving. All right, so our solution, biogas from sargassum and rum wastewater. We process marine biomass and distillery effluent as compressed natural gas, basically. And so it can produce CNG for cars, so that's the technicians putting the kit into that Suzuki Jimny, which is a gasoline car that can now run on the biogas from sargassum. Right now, we have a pilot for 6 cars in Guinea, St. John, Barbados. And we're in the process of fundraising for a pilot that would run 175 taxis locally to show scaling of the solution. So I guess the value of this is that circular economy approach. In fact, the one waste product from all of this is a digestate, that is an agricultural fertilizer. And our 6-car pilot is on a 5-acre lot in Guinea Estate, where we're gonna demonstrate that the digestate can water agriculture. Next slide. All right, so the impact and benefits. The environmental impact is obvious, having less sargassum on the beach. Our energy solution actually diverts 17 million tons of carbon emissions per 100,000 customers. And so the sustainability is evident. We are actually building this on a financial model, which was EU funded, to sell fuel at half the cost for drivers. So every kilometer will cost a driver half of what they pay now, which if you filled up your tank since you've been in Barbados, gas is expensive. Also is a social boost. It will boost tourism, but also create sustainable livelihoods for the people involved in collecting sargassum, the people involved in, we actually have 3 main feedstocks: sheep manure, sargassum, rum wastewater, and so the sheep farmers will also feel that benefit. Next slide. All right, so in terms of scaling up, we're in the process now of fixing our 6-car pilots in Guinea Plantation in Barbados. And the point of the 6-car pilots is to start collecting data towards the 175 pilot, which is this 250 kilowatt biogas plant along coastal areas in Barbados and 2 other locations in the wider Caribbean. Those are the conversations we're in now, to demonstrate that you could produce energy for national grids and transport using feedstocks like sargassum, which is arriving to all of our islands in greater amounts than we've ever been able to grow. If you know about the regional policies in the Caribbean, all of our countries have CSRM's goals for energy transition, like by 2030, X amount renewable, by 2050, Y amount renewable. And so all the countries actually do have goals for energy transition, and so this can help. Next slide. Right, so we really see this, we look at this solution and see a future in the Caribbean that we think we could have first sales by 2026 in the pilot plants. And we see a Caribbean region that is energy independent. And we actually have a campaign on WeFunder where we're raising for the current pilot. We're in conversations with regional funders, and we're building up. The video on the left actually shows the process to produce the biogas that drove that car on September 17th. So we have a small biogas system at the Aline School in St. Andrew, not too far from here, which produced enough biogas for us to charge the generator that drove that car on September 17th. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Henry, for your insightful presentation and for sharing your experiences. Your contributions to sustainable development and innovation are truly inspiring and provide us with a strong foundation for our discussions today. Now it's my sincere pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Antonio Hollingsworth, founder and executive director of Bayesian Digital Creations, Inc. With extensive experience in digital inclusion initiatives, Antonio has been instrumental in bridging the gap between technology and community empowerment in the region. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Antonio Hollingsworth to the stage.
Pleasant afternoon. Awaiting slides. The potential revenue from a coral reef is around $356,000 US per square kilometer per year. Most of that revenue comes from reef experiences, not just fishing, but in Barbados, reef experiences contributes the most revenue from the reef. Reef experiences are usually limited to people who like to swim, to people who can swim, have the mobility to swim, to persons who can scuba dive, who have the clearance to scuba dive, to persons who are interested in the reef and not afraid of the water. I don't fall into a lot of those things. And there are lots of people in the Caribbean and in Barbados that do not fall into that category at all. For them, life underwater is something that looks lovely, but they're not going into the water to see it because they either can't do it or they don't like the modes that we use. This slide shows, or is there to show what could be lost. On the left is an image of a local reef off the south coast of Barbados in 2023. In the middle is that same reef 1 year later after Hurricane Beryl. The impact was catastrophic. The sea fans were gone, the coral was gone, and the plant life that was in that area was scarred away by sand, and there's now red algae growing over everything. What's more is that the biodiversity that was there last year changed. And the only way we knew that it changed was because we happened to be collecting the information last year and this year. We don't know what the future is going to look like. So the challenge that is presented to small and developing states is, how do we, A, protect that asset that can generate significant revenue? B, how do we expand monetization of that profit, of that asset to generate that revenue? And C, how do we preserve that asset against the damage that is occurring while we are setting policies? And for all of these, we need to have more participation as well as more data in terms of setting the policies. But data is expensive. Collecting information about the reef costs small island developing states. But what if there's a different way? What if we could have the people, what if we could empower the citizens of the country, the ones who are the beneficiaries of that asset, to be part of the data collection process? And what if, by involving them in the data collection process, we could actually give them an alternative revenue to come in? In other words, the fisherman who is affected by an area that is now designated as a marine protected area can now pivot from extractive processes into one of experience processes. These young people, or the people in this slide, they represent the average Barbadian from 16 to 36. Included in this group are persons who are in secondary school. Included in this group, persons now starting university. And included in this group are 3 educators from a local secondary school. So we covered those who are still in school, those who just finished, and those who are educators in the school. Thanks to the UNDP Ocean Innovation Challenge and Compete Caribbean, we received the funding to be able to do this. So this year, we trained around 10 people to be able to pilot ROVs to provide virtual diving services. And in this video, you see the robot being deployed. So how do these virtual diving services work? And what's the value that is there? What's the value of the idea that we're doing? We're leveraging 2 types of technologies. We're leveraging underwater robotics, and we're leveraging artificial intelligence. Underwater robotics allows the individuals that may have disabilities or fear of the water, or may not have the expertise for scuba diving, to participate in reef observation. This brings not only access to persons who may not be normally participating, but it also brings a level of transparency, which is very important in setting marine policy. The video that these data collectors have is analyzed by artificial intelligence that we've developed in the Caribbean, or developed in Barbados, to look at the biodiversity profile of the species on the reef. So in other words, a person who may be afraid of the water or may have a disability is empowered to go experience a world that they would not normally experience. But while they are experiencing this world, they are actively contributing to 2 very critical parts of it. 1, they are collecting information that allows us to set policy now. And 2, they are collecting data that forms a digital backup of the reef. So in the event, like in the example that I gave earlier, that asset is damaged or destroyed, there is a digital version of it that can be used to inform or can act as a baseline for restoration. So what does it look like in reality? In reality, we have these 2 people. This is a couple who went out one day and they wanted to explore the reef. A little bit about the couple: neither of them can swim. Neither person can swim. And this young man was extremely happy to be able to give his then girlfriend the opportunity to go out on the reef and explore the reef. She was excited, she was happy about it. But what came out of it was this. One, she said, I'd never done this before. I didn't know life in Barbados was so beautiful. I didn't know underwater was so beautiful. And that connection is really important. Because once we establish the connection between the people and the reef, it means that policy can now have better buy-in. The same way how we could have done this with this young lady and her boyfriend, we were able to do this with children. Connecting children who may not be able to go this deep or be able to swim or be able to scuba dive with life in the reef. And when we connect children to this, they now see themselves as part of it, which is extremely important if we're going to talk about social resilience, because this is their culture. And we want to be able to transfer the ocean culture from one generation into the next. That is the only way that policies make sense, if there is some level of transfer. And that is what we wanted to do for Bluebot. We want to connect the people with the reef and have more participation involved in it. But in doing so, we also need to leverage the technology. And this is the part where the power comes in. This is the innovation as it comes into play. Because we have non-specialists participating in the process of data collection, and the human beings are learning about the life in the reef and the organisms that are there, we also have an artificial intelligence that we developed. Really important that we have developed. That a small island developing state owns. Something that is able not just to monitor today, but to learn from the information that exists. To learn from the information gathered by the people, so it is able to present a way, a simplified way of assessing a reef, called a biodiversity profile. And that profile allows a country like Barbados to be able to compare two reefs quicker. Because the work done in establishing that biodiversity profile for a single reef can now be used in another location to see how two reefs compare to each other. That is a powerful tool, because it brings the capacity for coral reef restoration to have an endpoint, to know what was there before and where we're going. And all of this at the root is being fueled by community participation. So it's the community who's collecting the data. It's the community who is establishing the buy-in and the connection to the reef. It's the community who's preserving the culture. It's the community who is collecting that information and storing it and archiving it. And it's the community that's training the artificial intelligence that the community has helped build for the future. So the 6-year-old boy who today is exploring the reef virtually, or the teenagers in a classroom in another part of the world that are able to see what is going on in a small island developing state, how climate change is impacting the reef, that those young people are part of the revolution that is going to give them the tool needed to restore what was damaged as a result of climate change. So the innovation of Bluebot is essentially the house is on fire, but instead of waiting for policies to fix it, we are saving what we can now to train the tool that will allow the future to be able to restore what could be lost. This is our view of resilience. So what does it look like if what we're doing is implemented? It means that a section of a reef that may be set aside as a marine protected area generates revenue today from the experiences that people have virtually. It generates revenue, it scales in terms of revenue generation, because now you can have subscription occurring in another part of the world, thanks to telecommunications. It means that you're able to have increased subscription to the reef without increasing the number of bodies in the water, which preserves the reef. In addition to that, you also have revenue from the data set and the data that's collected. And as time goes on, because you have consistent and measured and consistently measured data, it allows that reef to now be easier monetized in terms of debt financial swaps or in terms of the data that has been presented in it. So in the process, a small island developing state with a coral reef asset now has a way to monetize that reef and generate revenue from the community level up without taking a single fish out of it. That is the Blue Bot Project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollingsworth, for your noteworthy presentation. Thank you. I'd now like to invite to the stage Mr. Luis da Silva de Palva, who is the Regional Social Protection Specialist at UNDP. Luis played a pivotal role in leading Bolsa Familia, Brazil's renowned cash transfer program from 2012 to 2015. And he also served as the director of the Brazilian Social Registry. With over 20 years of experience in his field, he is also an accomplished author, having written several papers and chapters on social policies, and holds a bachelor's degree in social policy and a PhD in sociology. Today, he will share valuable insights on how to improve social protection through digitalization, demonstrating how effective improvements can be achieved even with a modest budget. Please join me in welcoming Luis da Silva de Palva to the stage.
Thank you very much. So, for those who have seen my presentation earlier today, it's going to be a bit repetitive, but instead of speaking my Portuñol, I'm going to speak my Porto English. So, when I wrote this title for this presentation, I thought people are going to skip some words and ask me, is it possible to improve social protection with a modest amount of money? And the answer is yes and no, and I hope to make it clear after this. But before, let me say a word about our sponsor. We finance the projects that I'm going to mention in this presentation later on with resources from one of the UNDP thematic funding windows, more specifically the Poverty and Equality funding windows, which is maintained thanks to donation from the government of Luxembourg. In 2024, we were asked to deliver projects and digital solutions in social protection. And so we had a question, and our question was, I'm sorry, what happened? Thank you very much. It was how to improve social protection with digitalization. And obviously the first approach to it is to think, we have a modest amount of money. Each of these projects have a relatively small amount of money. And so we can develop a new app or something like that. And we will explain why we didn't go in this direction. We tried to think things more structural, like improving the interoperability of social registries. And yes, this sounds good, interoperability of social registries, but what does it mean exactly? What is interoperability? And after all, why social registries are important? And so, I mentioned this earlier today. The point is that developing digital solutions to be directly used by beneficiaries can be valuable initiatives in terms of governments in general. And we all use lots of apps from governments that well, help us in our everyday lives. But when we think about social protection especially, these solutions must be adopted carefully because we are talking about people that not necessarily have devices to access these services. They don't have internet connection. They don't have digital literacy. And so we can be at risk of developing a solution that is ultimately exclusionary. And that's exactly what we don't want in terms of social protection, to generate exclusion. On the other hand, investing in social protection infrastructure rarely can produce exclusion. In general, we produce inclusion with this. And we have potential to enhance that data quality and security and to save beneficiaries' time. I'll try to develop these a little bit further. Before this, let me explain what's the role of social registries for those who don't know. The simplest way to define social registries is that social registries are the administrative register for the poor and the vulnerable. We often people have our data in several administrative registries. In other words, we receive payments for our firms. We have a house, a car. We pay taxes. So all of these generate information for administrative registries, and these registries make us visible for the state. So we can receive public policies from the state. But the poor and vulnerable frequently are not in any administrative registries. We don't know who they are. The governments, they are invisible for the public. And so when we created social registry, we got information from poor and vulnerable people, made them visible for the state, and permitted or allowed governments to deliver then social policies. That's the importance of social registry. They work as targeting mechanisms. They contribute to coordinate different policies that reach poor and vulnerable people, and they can save time from vulnerable people if they work as one-stop shops for social policies. In other words, poor and vulnerable people don't have to knock several different doors or windows to demand or to request public policies. The problem with our social registries in Latin America, with a few exceptions, like Chile or Costa Rica, is that these systems don't, they don't exchange data with other administrative registries. In other words, these social registries are based on self-informed information. Poor and vulnerable people give this information to the social registry, but we don't cross-check this information with information from other administrative registries. In other words, social registries are not interoperable, which raises questions with data quality and represent costs for families, because families keep In other words, it's necessary for families to give again and again and again information that sometimes the government has already. So investing in making social register interoperable increases data quality and saves people's time. So now I start speaking about the projects that we are done with the Poverty and Equality Funding windows. And when we received this mission to look for projects in the region, we perceived that quite a few countries were about to deploy large programs to improve the interoperability of their social registries. This is the case for Brazil, Ecuador, and Peru. But they were in need of support in the initial phase when the bulk of the financing was not yet available. So what we've done, or are doing actually, is that we are supporting these projects in the very initial phase, defining what this project is going to be structurally with this small amount of money. Later on, either from the government or from international financial institutions, the bulk of finance will come and further develop this. Or in other words, it will leverage this initial investment. So what we are doing in Brazil, for instance, UNDP and the national government are analyzing how to integrate data from formal employment and education into the social registry. In Ecuador, we are developing the geoportal. Going to finish it. In Ecuador, we are going to develop a geoportal that will combine data from various sources, including those related to climate disasters. In Peru, we are going to promote or to develop the regulation of the mechanism for social information integration and developed a pilot of a system that will make their social registry interoperable. This initiative will be further developed when the bulk of the projects, because with the sum of the amount of money that we are investing right now, it's impossible to do. So when I said yes and no, we are given a support for the initial phase, but obviously a lot of more money will be necessary. And they will, in several of these countries, it's a significant amount of money. In other words, the World Bank will put quite a few dozens of millions of dollars in these projects over 5-6 years. And, but we are contributing in a critical part of the project, in the very beginning. And we are also developing other projects in Colombia, Dominican Republic, and Cuba. So our decision so far was investing in initial phases of social protection infrastructure transformation rather than initiatives such a new app, and focusing on potentially broad impacts, sometimes difficult to measure, rather than unmeasurable but likely minor impacts, and supporting initiatives that will be leveraged by other partners, national governments, for instance, in Brazil, and the World Bank in Peru and in Ecuador, instead of being solely financed by the UNDP funding windows. This is what we have done so far, and we hope to be able to share the results of these projects within 1 year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis de Silva de Palva, for your insightful words. Our next speaker is Patricia Serrano, Regional Technical Specialist on Climate and Forest with the LAC Environment and Energy team at the UNDP Regional Hub for Latin America and the Caribbean. With over 15 years of experience, Patricia has been a leader in forest conservation and climate initiatives, notably spearheading the Pro Amazonia program in Ecuador. a globally recognized project in REDD+ investment and results-based payments. She has previously served in different positions with UNDP Ecuador, contributing to the country's progress in climate and forest policies. Patricia holds a master's degree in climate change law and economics from Flaxco, Argentina, along with additional qualifications in environmental sustainability and law, bringing a wealth of expertise to her work in advancing the climate agenda and sustainable development. Please join me in welcoming Patricia Serrano to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to present experience that it is really close to my heart, and it is essential for our future. It is about the sustainable, deforestation-free coffee production in the Ecuadorian Amazon. This program represents not just a product, but a movement that demonstrates how responsible and sustainable practices in agriculture can lead to transformative social, economic, and environmental outcomes. Today, I will share with you how, through collaborative partnerships and innovative approaches, we are working to protect forests, empower communities, and contribute to a global model for sustainability. So imagine your morning cup of coffee directly contributing to the conservation of one of the most biodiverse regions on the planet, the Amazon rainforest. This is not just an idea, it is a reality. Through Pramazonia, with the support of UNDP and a partnership with Lavazza, Ecuador is producing deforestation-free coffee of the highest quality as part of their national strategy to reduce deforestation and forest degradation, REDD+. This isn't just sustainable coffee, it is a model for resilience. Deep in Ecuador's Amazon, small-scale farmers in Zamora Chinchipe had embarked on a transformative journey. They are producing the world's first deforestation-free coffee as a result of a collaboration between the government of Ecuador, Lavazza, local farmers, and UNDP. This initiative is not only about producing coffee, it is about building resilience, environmental, social, and economic. Sorry, it's going so slow. So these farmers are not just producing high-quality coffee, they are protecting forests, they are improving productivity, increasing incomes, and also reducing gender gaps, while empowering youth and accessing new markets, all while contributing to Ecuador's climate ambitious goals. This initiative was implemented through Pramazonia, a groundbreaking collaboration between Ecuador's Ministry of Environment and Agriculture, UNDP, and the private sector, notably Lavazza. The concept is simple but powerful. Create a sustainable production system that integrates environmental protection with improved livelihoods, ensuring the Amazon's survival for future generations. At the heart of this initiative is UNDP's role, demonstrating how climate and nature agendas can act as catalysts for broader social, economic, and governance transformations. Our mission is to support quality economic development where environmental and social aspects are integral. We are promoting inclusive financial growth, ensuring that no one is left behind. In the Ecuadorian Amazon, the Lavazza partnership exemplifies how UNDP collaborates with the private sector to create real and lasting impact. This initiative goes beyond coffee. It is about building governance systems, empowering communities, and helping Ecuador meet its climate commitments while driving sustainable development. So let's take a look at some evidence of the real impact on the ground. Through Amazonia, we have impacted over 93,000 hectares of land and supported more than 16,000 producers. The shift from deforestation-driven agriculture to sustainable deforestation-free practices has transformed entire communities. By working directly with indigenous peoples, women, and smallholder farmers, we have not only reduced CO2 emissions, but also created economic opportunities and improved livelihoods. A pivotal moment came in 2022, when Lavazza purchased its first container of deforestation-free coffee from Ecuador's Amazon. This wasn't just a transaction. It was the first step for small coffee producers in remote regions to join a global movement for responsible consumption. As a result of this process, producers linked to this strategy have increased their productivity by 24% and their gross income by 42%, in addition to reducing the deforestation by 93% in the intervention areas. This is more than just saving forests. It is about creating a resilient future for people and ensuring that sustainability is profitable. So why is this initiative meaningful? Because it is not only supporting the Amazon or Ecuador, it supports a way of doing business that can be replicated across the region and the entire globe. Imagine a region where deforestation is no longer the price of economic progress and where social resilience is woven into every layer of policy, production, and governance. This initiative demonstrates that resilience is more than surviving adversity. It is about thriving. By integrating environmental sustainability with economic opportunity and social equity, we are building the foundation for long-term resilience. This is resilience in action, sustainable solutions for social resilience where climate and nature serve as catalysts for development, paving the way for a future where people and planet thrive together. We are only at the beginning. Amazonia's success proves that sustainability can be profitable, scalable, and inclusive. This isn't just a one country, one company success story. It is a blueprint on how governments, the private sector, and local communities can work together to solve global challenges. There in the picture you can see the first deforestation-free coffee produced by Ecuador Amazonian farmers, and that was launched last month by Lavazza. So in closing, the question isn't whether we can replicate this model, the question is how fast we can scale it. Let's not stop at coffee. Let's expand this approach to other agricultural commodities, forestry, and other sectors across the region. By embracing sustainable practices today, we are building the resilient communities of tomorrow. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricio Serrano, for your words and for sharing with us today. Our next speaker is Mr. Oscar Rivera. With over 10 years of experience in the public sector, he was appointed as the Commissioner of the National Registry of People, RNP, of Honduras in 2019, in recognition of his outstanding skills, political leadership abilities, and extensive professional background. Throughout his career, he has held significant positions within the National Congress, the Central American Parliament, political parties, and the Advisory Council of the then Supreme Electoral Tribunal, contributing significantly to the development of the country's democratic institutions. During his tenure at the National Registry of People, Mr. Rivera has led important transformations, driving significant improvements in the quality and accessibility of services for citizens. Due to his exceptional work, he was reappointed in 2024 to ensure the continuity of ongoing projects and to consolidate the advances made at the RNP. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Oscar Rivera to the stage.
Muchísimas gracias por la presentación. Vamos a agradecerle también al PNUD por la invitación. También el recibimiento que hemos tenido en el país ha sido excelente. Queremos hacerle una presentación de parte del Registro Nacional de las Personas, contextualizando por qué un
why
registro
civil
está invitado a
registry
este evento.
has been invited to this event. It's important to understand that they work essentially with citizens. And we have, and that there's a permanent data from since we were born until we died. That is registered in all the countries of the region. This information is used basically to see the topics of births, weddings, adoptions, restriction of children, number of children, or divorces. But in 2019 in Honduras, we modified that logic. We changed that radically. That the vision of this registry, modifying it, which were attached. But they brought it over to the Constitution, to the chapter on the citizenry, when the Constitution defines what is a Honduran citizen. It says the registry of persons. The change is aimed at giving an orientation to the registry as an entity that look at regarding the topics of interoperability at the center. And who are the registered? The citizens. Therefore, the registration is an entity which does the entries of the information. This vision that the National Congress in 2019 implemented, it radically changed our function. And that is what I wanted to let you know about this evening. One of the key elements of this definition process, which was done in the Constitution, in Article 43B, they assign the responsibility to be people in charge to give faith and authenticity and certainty to the with regard to the data of citizens, and the responsibility to administer this system, national education system, which manages not only the information but all the other acts that the citizens carry out day by day. Associated with this, we work with a project which we with UNDP with financing from the Central American Bank, where we had the possibility to go from 0 to 100%, updating 100% of this data, not for electoral purposes, but for purposes of service to the people. In the first case, which I'm going to present, was successful. It's the Ministry of Education. Agriculture. It gives services, accompanying service to the producers, fertilizers, equipment, etc. But they had a lot of problems with the traceability of who gave it to them and why give it to them, and how much they should be given, and if they were given it at all. And the register applied application so that we can trace these services. First, all the services are associated with in a centralized base which the ministry administers, but each one of the acts is done through the management of the system. The next slide, please. This system, which we do, generates a reporting system, updated reporting system of all the activities that the technicians do in the field. This generates a reporting system with regard to the financial aspect of it, and for control of the dashboards which the institution has in each one of the activities. How do we do this? We generate a field processing at each one of the deliveries which are done, which is social equipment or technical accompaniment with the biometry of the citizen, proving that the person is the person who should receive this. Honduras is a poor country, and the little that we have that we are designing is we are designing for this to be excellent. This gives the possibility that government to have control of the management and to measure the impact generated by the database on the citizenry. The next project that we are going to show you, to exhibit here, is the two projects, the central projects which we have of the direct social help associated with the topics of conditional transference and 2007 villages focused as considered in need were given aid. More than 104,000 families will receive all that economical aid which we give each citizen passed through a validation and how do we do it? Through biometrically, and that person is connected directly with the certainty that the accompaniment, the tripartite accompaniment, in this case is a national bank for the development, the National Registry of Persons as a valid entity, and the entity in charge of attending the social system. We work hand in hand to ensure that the help goes directly to the person who needs it. The second one is associated with the Solidarity Action Program, which is more aimed at a wider sector, those of the elderly. All of our elderly people receive a social help from the government, also with biometrics, because the biometrics of the AHS is sometimes the quality in print, and sometimes it's difficult to be certain that it is the person, the elder, who should receive that help. We should mention that all this process is associated with scholarships for youngsters, among other things. This project is a project which is very innovative. The National Institute of the Youth will ask us to do a census, what the youth wants in Honduras. How do they want to see the country in the future? How do we want it and they ask for a registry that can be applied so that the youth can have consultation actions and participate. Youth from between 18 to 30 years, they can go to the web platform via the telephone. They put in their ID number, and they can take out the registration documents. First, they must have 18 years, so that and they do a validation that this person has participated, what their opinion was, and they give a subsequent accompaniment. Quite a few have participated in this situation. For the near future, we have the possibility to rely on projects associated with the health services and the services of health in the the sector of the elderly, among others, so that the country can advance in the direct correction and to transform its development. Thank you very much. Okay, you want to go?
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera, for your contributions to our side event. Now, to close this session, let's welcome to the stage Fernando Arameo, Program Coordinator and Institutional Management at UNDP Bolivia. With over 24 years of experience, Fernando specializes in conflict transformation, governance, and the design of programs and projects based on data science. Recently, he has developed and implemented public policy designs and perspective analyses utilizing machine learning and artificial intelligence. He currently serves as Program Coordinator and Institutional Management at UNDP Bolivia. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Arameo to the stage.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes.
Very good afternoon. The slides I have in English and the presentation I'm going to do in Spanish quickly, fast and furious to adjust to the time, because I know that this is the last presentation and you know it's Friday and everybody wants to go to the beach. Well, this is an experience which we have developed in Bolivia under the premise that the energy transition and all the effects that comes with it. It's evident that the culture Bolivia, China, Chile and Argentina, we have vocation and as been presented, the energy transition is going to help to exponential growth in the country with regard to mining and its effect. It has. Based on that, we as a country, although we have non-certified reserves, we concentrate 23% of the work of the cobalt and other minerals. That's what the data shows. In Bolivia, lithium from the years, many countries have lithium. Is how easy it is to extract. In the case of Bolivia, we have technology to do so, advanced technology to do that at the level of Chile and Argentina. The big problem since from the 90s, we tried to extract it, but it wasn't possible because the social conflicts around the fairs that generates the contamination of water, the problem related to how we distribute these royalties, and teams related to topics related to the high water resources that are going to be used from countries such as Chile, are generating big problems as well with regard to the use of this mineral. In 2022, they presented a concept of governance participatory, that the states, the societies, and the private sectors they have to strengthen their capacities to avoid these conflicts, to have agreements, because in America they think on 5-year terms. When we talk, because they're concession of 30 and 60 years. Recently, Chile has updated this license for 30 years for the extraction of lithium. In the Bolivian case, we had a conflict from the 90s, impeded the extraction of lithium. The UNDP apply methodologies of analysis system of the conflicts and anticipatory, and we have combined with an algorithm which we had educated our artificial intelligence to be able to combine the quantitative intelligence qualitative data resulting from a system of monitoring and conflicts based in this artificial intelligence permitted us to construct this. It's called lithium landscape. It's a concept that permits the use of machine learning to be able to have a recovery of all the components, which includes the extraction, including the extraction of lithium, the water resources, cultural heritage, social conflicts, and all those activities. This has allowed us to rely on all the other actors to create pacts and have effective governance platforms. The consequences of their decisions or their indecisions, so that they have core responsibility with regard to what decisions can have decisions that can be made. Because why is this important? Because it has allowed us to produce something that since the 90s that we haven't achieved. It's a project under the Lithium Act. In the case of Bolivia, it would open the doors for the extraction of those layers. And it permits the actors, as well as communities and government, as well as the private sector, to do a perspective towards 50 and 60 years. What are the consequences of these decisions? What are the consequences that they can confront if they're legislated or not? In some zones, and beyond that, conjuncture allow us to help to make decisions. It's a model which is being presented to help us act in a resilient manner at the limitations and in this case, this depends a lot on the water resources in all the countries that I mentioned. When we say lithium landscape, we're talking about a different way of, based on the environmental justice. We have installed 3 governance platforms which have to do with problems around lithium, one around water, and others related to environmental topics, which had to do a lot to do with what Mr. Hollingsworth, when he talked about making a change of the paradigms, and for the benefit of the city and preserving the in this case is the industrial extraction of the lithium. The man right now like a jet plane.
Yeah, really.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aramayo, for our final
Muchas gracias.
As we conclude this session, I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of our speakers for their valuable insights and contributions. Your innovative approaches to social protection, climate initiatives, and community empowerment are not only inspiring, but also essential for driving meaningful change in our region. Thank you so much.